we are very proud to announce UMP Trading is an official partner with a proven profit track record.
Yeah, if you want great returns on your investments, be sure to check out UMP Trading.
Hello, welcome back to everyone listening to the channel AUC Talks. Braden and I, here we are to bring another video that's not the stock watch. I know we haven't been that consistent lately, but a lot due to me, blame's on me. But we are bringing you content now. We're going to do a best 11 of lost dual nationals from current players, the current couple players that could have chosen the US at one point in time and that we believe would have been great additions to our team. And go, Braden, if you want to get straight into it, who is it and why is he a big miss?
Yeah, so we're going to do this kind of like a best 11 format, and we're going to start off with the keeper, and it has to be Zion Suzuki, the Japanese dual national who officially chose Japan as of the last international window. He got his first call-up, so congrats to him, but also screw you because it's a huge loss for the future. We've seen Matt Turner struggling in the recent past, and he even lost his spot for Nottingham Forest last weekend, and based on the performance of Lacodimos and how the fans reacted, he's not going to be getting his spot back anytime soon, unless there's an injury, of course, which we're not going to wish upon anyone. But yeah, with him on the bench, with Horvath also not going to ever see game time for Forest again, we've got options in MLS that aren't too great. Slanina's conceding 4 goals a game, regardless of how many saves he's making, and Chris Brady, he's just not ready yet. Same for obviously like Diego Cochin and some of the other young guys we have. So I think Zion Suzuki, who's playing at a similar level to Slanina in the same league, but he's playing a lot better in my opinion. He's keeping more clean sheets. It helps having a defense that's kind of competent because Slanina doesn't, but I do think he's a better player. He's a couple years older, so that has to be considered, but I think with the current goalkeeper drought that we have right now, which is a little concerning because we've always had good goalkeepers, I think Suzuki honestly had to play to be the number 1 in 2026, which might sound crazy to some people, but I legitimately think he's up there. I think he would be our number 2 right now. I think he's already better than Horvath, and the way Turner's been playing in 3 years, who knows? So Suzuki's a huge loss, and I expect him to do big things with Japan in the future.
Yeah, I think it's the one that got away out of all we always peeled out great goalkeepers. I think that is the one position where we consistently have good players near that world-class level, or at least competent enough to the point where we can rely on them performing for the national team. And unfortunately, Suzuki's such a good player, but he got away and made his choice to another good national team that I think is emerging sort of with the same goals as we are to try to break into that top 8 category of breaking the legacy of always just European teams or South American teams. So yeah, big loss. At the right back position, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of him. We chose Julian Araujo, who I'm not a huge fan, but he's surprising this season for Las Palmas. It's surprising. I didn't think he was going to perform this well at all. I knew that when he went to Barcelona, he wasn't going to see the pitch at all, but good loan for him, good career choice, which some of our players, some of our youngsters, especially in Europe, they seem to lack. But hey, props to Julian Araujo, and I think he would have been an option for the US. What do you have to say about him, Braden?
Yeah, I don't like him very much either, but you have to give credit where credit is due. And this move to Las Palmas for him has been huge for his future. Obviously at Barcelona, I don't understand why they made such a big deal over the window. They got the deal done a couple of minutes late after the deadline, and I think his development has come along a lot better than any of us have expected. And you mentioned the career choices. Our current right back is not so blessed with the foresight that Araujo has, because when he was at Barcelona, he tried to make his name for himself, even though it was clear that it wasn't going to happen. And then when he had to go on loan, he chose a much bigger team than he was capable of playing for. And I think Araujo's judgment would be really capable for Serginho Dest. And there was another option here, Jeremy Toljan, the German dual national. But just due to the fact that Araujo has progressed a lot better than a lot of us thought, and the fact that he is going to be playing for our immediate rival, it indirectly weakens us because it makes them better. Kind of the situation that we had with Alejandro Zendejas, the reverse, where we don't really need him, but he would have made Mexico a lot better, especially in his recent form. So it's kind of the reverse of that situation here. And honestly, I think he's developing into a very solid right back, especially in one of the best leagues in the world. So props to him. And I think he's a bigger loss than we initially thought he was.
Absolutely. I would definitely, I don't know if I'm just hating, but I would have bet on him going back to MLS in this year already. But good job for him. Props to him. And for the center back position, this is a good one. Tyler Benden, really promising center back. We see our depth, how it's going, how it's a lot of our young center backs, they're a bit overrated. We have to say that. And we have a guy here who's playing at a good level, at a really competitive league, and somehow he got away because I don't think he ever got a look in by the Federation. But yes, Tyler Benden, do you want to expand on that one, Braden? I know that you were one of the first ones to find out who this guy is.
Yeah, I definitely want to expand on Benden more because, as you guys know, if you've been here for a while, I was the one who first discovered him, and I was so upset. I think I've mentioned this in previous videos when he ended up choosing New Zealand over us, because he's definitely a player who would have chosen us if we give him the light of day. Because I know he's said in interviews he feels more of a Kiwi, but realistically he has to say that he chose them. And he's a player who's born and raised in the US. He's an LAFC academy product, which I don't really like LAFC, but he's a tremendous player, and he kind of came out of nowhere onto the scene with Reading. So you can give a little bit of a pass to the Federation for not knowing who he was this quickly, but realistically, our center back depth is horrible. There's no overstating it. I have to be realistic here. And he would have been a huge part of our future. I think he has the highest potential of any of our young center backs, which might be a stretch for some people, but I think he has the potential to be a very solid Premier League player in the future. And yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the biggest losses on here. Honestly, I think he might be the second biggest loss in this entire list, which is saying something considering some of the names that are on here. So like I said, I'm absolutely gutted that he didn't pick us. I'm mad at the Federation for not noticing him, and hopefully they can use this as a lesson to expand on their scouting. And even if kids kind of pop out of nowhere, just joining random teams, because Reading are in League One. It's not the most prestigious league, but you have to look everywhere because players are popping up all over the world. Like Pedro Soma, one of our best players on the U17 team. He's playing for some no-name team. No disrespect to Cornella, but realistically, no one's heard of them outside of Pedro Soma. And Rokas Bukstas popping up in Croatia. These players that are crucial for our future are just producing everywhere in the world, and we have to be more broad with our scouting. So that's all I want to say about Tyler Benden.
Yeah, and I feel like a bit of this loss was, I don't know, I could be completely wrong here, but I feel like he rushed to the decision a little bit too early. He's really young a player. Maybe he could have waited, but now you got a participation of my little sister screaming there. But yeah, I feel like it's a big loss, and especially considering, as you said, our depth for the future. I feel like we really could have used him. And now the next center back, Gray, the Jamaican duo net. What do you want to say about him, Braden?
Yeah, honestly, just like our main center back pool, the pool of center backs that didn't pick us is also not the greatest. Benden's really the only one who's a real loss. But shout out to Tavon Gray. He's been performing pretty well for NYCFC, and he got rewarded with the Jamaica call-up, so props to him. I don't know if he ever would have made it into the USMNT, but he is still young. He's still 21. He has a long, bright future ahead of him, and I wish him nothing but the best with Jamaica. I really like the development they have. I think they have a very promising generation upcoming, and I think they're going to be a huge threat in CONCACAF in the future, and a better CONCACAF is better for the US, so I'm all for him choosing Jamaica, and I hope he does great things for them.
Yeah, next for the left back position, we picked Rearson. I just want to mention another player that I don't know if a lot of people know that he's eligible for the US. It's Jere Yudonen. I don't know. He plays for Brest in Ligue 1, and he's married to an American. So I don't know how he would be eligible for us. But I know that through marriage you'd have to live in the US. But we picked Rearson. What do you want to expand on that one, Braden? Norwegian American dual net.
Yeah, Rearson's an interesting one because I don't see his name pop up a lot in these dual nationals that we missed conversations, but I think he's a decent sized loss. He's basically just a better Scally for me. He's a little bit older, more experienced, but he's playing at the top level for Dortmund week in, week out. He can play either side, right back or left back. As you can see, we put him at left back here. He can obviously fill in at right back as well. And I think that kind of versatility is big, and especially up until very recently, we had no depth at left back. It was Jedi, and then it was Dest and Scally having to fill in. And as we saw against Germany, Dest filling in at left back is something we should never see again. So, I mean, I'm grateful for my guy Christopher Lund appearing and choosing us over Denmark. But having Rierson there a couple months, maybe even years earlier, would have been really big as a Jedi backup. So, yeah.
Yeah, now we get to the more exciting part, the midfield, where I think that we lost some really good players. I don't know if there was any way really where realistically Delaney would have chosen us, but I really like him. I feel like he would have been that defensive midfielder that we were lacking for quite a while. And I feel like even now he would likely be involved with the lineup. Denmark, American dual net, he's eligible through his grandfather, I believe, and who was American born. And yeah, really huge miss, because I felt every time he played for Denmark he was really impressive. He's still a really impressive player coming in towards the end of his career, but a really good player nonetheless. I feel like the flair for a defensive midfielder is something rare to find, and he is flair. He has a lot of flair and really good passing, silky smooth on the ball. So big loss there. Braden, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, every time he plays for Denmark, Sevilla, Dortmund, now with Anderlecht, he's always so good. And we did have that gap between Michael Bradley and Tyler Adams. And if you want to call Bradley good, I mean, he kind of fell off pretty quickly, to be honest. Obviously, he had some good moments, but there was a long period of time, and especially in that 2017 team that didn't qualify for the World Cup, if Thomas Delaney was there, there's no doubt in my mind that we would have qualified for that tournament. How would we have done? Probably not so well, because that team was pretty bad, but we would have at least been there and saved ourselves the embarrassment in Kula. But yeah, even now, I think leadership and experience is something that our locker room and our team as a whole lacks a lot, even within the coaching staff as well. I mean, a lot of our guys don't have a lot of experience. We saw Greg, our main coach, got sacked in the second division of Sweden. He doesn't really have too much experience. No hate for this video on him, but the experience within him and the players as well. We keep seeing these behind the crest videos, and a thing that sticks out to me is the team talks. They're not very convincing. I don't think we have a true leader in there. Maybe you could say Tyler Adams, but he's been missing, and Delaney just brings the experience, and I think he could be a true leader in the locker room with such young guys, and especially since CDM has been a position where we haven't had a lot of depth. I know Maloney, Tessman, Johnny Cardoso have emerged within the past 6 months to a year, but before that it was Tyler Adams and nobody. And even now with Tyler Adams injured, Delaney would probably be a locked-in starter for us with Adams out, and even with him back, he's a key piece to the locker room and still a very good player that can fill in. So I think he's a very big loss.
Yeah, big loss. Just as the next player, Kajust, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but playing for Napoli now, what a good player. Honestly, I love these types of players. Box to box, good at everything. Could be a defensive mid, could be a number 10. Really good player, really impressive for Napoli. Every Napoli fan is in awe of how much of a bargain they got him for. Really good player, exciting, and I feel like he would be a starter for us, especially with the system that Greg likes to play. If he's going to play the three-man workhorse midfield, he could do that job. If he's going to play a double pivot, he could also do that. What a good player. I feel like it's a player that any national team could have used. And he reminds me a lot of Dembele, the player who played for Tottenham, and I always thought it was really good. What do you think, Braden?
Yeah, I had to get a Swedish-born player in here. Or actually, I think he was born in America, but, a Swedish dual national. But yeah, like you said, he's a great player, and I think our midfield kind of gets overshadowed as an area of need, because we do have the top-end talent. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa are all very good players, and even off the bench, Luca De La Torre. But outside of that, we have one sub. It's Luca. Outside of that, there's nobody. I mean, we've got some guys in the Olympic team that are coming up, Busio, Tessman, Jack McGlynn, but none of them are ready. And if one of our guys were to go down, there's always someone in our starting lineup that's injured. It's just how our players are. We're all made of glass. We have to realize that. So the depth is absolutely crucial, and it's been getting better, a lot better over the past couple of years. But to have Zdenka Juste in the team would be crucial. And like you said, I think he would start for us. I think he's better than Moose. I think he's better than McKennie. It might be controversial, but I think he's really impressed me for Napoli. He's really impressed me for Sweden. I'm glad he picked Sweden because one of our worst generations in a long time, and good players are hard to come by right now for Sweden. But he would be crucial for the U.S. and he'd be a very big piece, even if he wasn't starting. Like you said, the versatility to play as a 6, potentially as a 10, wherever he needs to go, he'll fill in and do a very, very good job. So that kind of player, it's hard to come by. So and I don't think we really have anyone like that right now. Maybe Weston, but I think Kajus is a little bit better. So he's another big loss.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think that Musa, Weston, Adams, they're all really top-notch players, but it's never a problem to have a player like Ajuse on the pool, and I do think that he would have been carving himself a spot to start for us. Just like the next player, Amir Richardson, I don't think we ever had a chance with this one, to be honest. I think it was from the get-go, he was always set on Morocco, but regardless, he is an American duo. Nat had a really good season last year, getting promoted in France. Now he actually officially made his debut for Morocco as well, so it's a loss right there. But I feel like, especially again, this defensive midfielder position, if you take into account his physicality as well and the speed that he has with that size, would have been a really, really nice sight to see him wearing our colors. But we lost that one as well. Braden, what do you think?
Yeah, just quickly, I want to correct my mistake. Kajus was born in Sweden. But yeah, Amir Richardson, I think his loss is a little bit overhyped by fans. I don't think he's as big of a loss as Kajus would have been, or Thomas Delaney, or even some of the other players in here. But in this best 11 format, I mean, he definitely does take a spot in the midfield. He's a very talented player. And Morocco, kind of like you said earlier with Japan, I think all three countries, US, Morocco, Japan, are in a very similar trajectory where we're trying to change the typical landscape of the footballing world. It's always European teams, South American teams who are on top, but all three of us are trying to break that code and crack into the top 10. And we've seen Morocco do that with the semi-final performance for the last World Cup. And I think he's joining an exciting young generation of Moroccans that clearly has the best days ahead of them. And I think he'll be a very good piece for them off the bench, as he would have been for us. Like I said, for Kajus, all depth is required, especially going into a World Cup where there's going to be a lot more games with the expanded format. And yeah, it would have been a very big loss off the bench, I think, because he's better than some of the other players that we've been calling up.
Yeah, definitely. And we talk about trying to break into that top 8, top 10 soccer nation worldwide. This next player, he's in your background. He would have definitely changed our level right away. Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't think we ever had a chance on this one as well, but he has been really kind in interviews, saying that he loves America, he loves visiting the US, he likes the fact that he can call himself American as well, and we see the quality. I mean, in my opinion, one of the best players in the world on the ball. What a good player. It does have some, lacks a little bit of defensive awareness at times. That's why we put him in the camp position, because I honestly feel like he's such a good player. He could play anywhere, and I'm pretty sure I agree with that statement. Just how amazing would it have been to see Trent Alexander-Arnold playing for the US, Braden?
Yeah, it might be weird to see him at the cam role in this 11 that we've built, but honestly, the fullback depth that we've lost out on is mind-blowing, to be honest, with Araujo, Jeremy Toljan, who didn't even make this 11, Julian Rierson as well, who we mentioned earlier at left back, and Trent in the midfield. He plays there for England now, and whenever he plays there for England and for Liverpool, he looks absolutely sensational. I do think it could be potentially his best spot, and he plays kind of similarly to Dest. I've noticed he's not the best defensively, is fair to say, but going forward, he's absolutely world-class. I think he's the best attacking fullback in the world, one of the best attacking wide players in the world, and even when he drifts into the center mid, which we've seen Dest do sometimes for us and at club level for PSV, Barcelona, wherever he's playing. And yeah, I like the fact as well, nothing but respect to Trent. He's always so respectful to us in interviews, and he's proud to be American. He wants to come play here sometime at the end of his career, which we never see English people be respectful to America, especially their fans. So nothing but respect to Trent, despite his choice. I think it made sense, but it would have been so nice to have him as an option at right back. We've seen Dest not it against the best of teams, and having Trent there would be a real big bonus on our chances, especially if we do want to become one of the best nations in the world. I mean, we need a world-class quality, and right now we don't have that, but Trent is a player who has that quality.
And we would have been a lot more prolific with the spamming crosses tactic that we like to use. I'm just kidding on that one. Now, going on to the forward position, Jonathan David. I'll be honest, I was always puzzled with his choice. I don't know why he chose Canada. Honestly, I lack words for it, but I feel like now he's not as big of a loss. But again, depth can never hurt you. So it would have been nice to have him in our pool as well in case, let's say, God forbid, Balogun and Pepe get injured. Well, he would have been right there. I think he would be contending for a spot to start, actually. So he's a really good player. I think his career speaks for itself. He is a solid striker. I don't think he's as good of a striker as we maybe thought he would become, but he's still nonetheless a really good striker and a loss for us regardless. What do you think, Braden? How do you rate this loss 1 through 10?
Yeah, I think Jonathan David, out of this 11, or out of the players we've lost in general, is definitely the second best of them. Obviously, we've got Trent, is far and away the best, but out of the rest of these guys, David, I think it is pretty well clear of the rest of them. And I do understand him choosing Canada. Obviously, he had a difficult situation as a child, eventually moving there after bouncing around a little bit between the US and Haiti, and I mean, his youth coaches there were some of the big reasons where he got noticed by European teams, and I do understand his choice. It makes sense. They've given him a lot, and he does kind of owe his career to Canada. So I'm not too mad about that aspect, especially now that we have Balogun. I will admit, if we didn't have Balogun, I'd be very salty because David is a very, very excellent striker. We've seen it with Lille. Year in, year out, he's always one of the best players in Ligue 1. Maybe it's not the best league, but it doesn't matter. He performs in Europe for them as well, and for Canada on the international stage. He's always one of their best players up there with Alphonso Davies. And I do think he is better than Balogun. Maybe I'll get hate from that by US fans, but I think he's better than Balo. Maybe he doesn't have the potential in the future that Balogun has, but as of right now, he's better. Not by too much to say that it's a massive loss, because with Balo and Pepe, we do have our future center forwards set, and especially with guys like Kirill Figueroa coming up through the youth teams who look to be very, very good. We are set there, but Jonathan David, we can't ignore his quality, and he's definitely would have been a nice player to have.
Absolutely. And lastly, we put Campagna there. What do you think? Do you think this is a big loss, Brady? I'm actually curious to see your opinion on this. Was it just to fill the starting 11, or how big of a loss do you think it is?
Yeah, to be honest, it is partly just to fill the 11 because a lot of the depth that we've lost seems to be in the fullback areas. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a lot midfield, a lot defensive orientated. There's not a lot of forwards. Even I considered putting some wingers here, but there's not a lot of forwards in general that we've lost. But I do think Campagna is an interesting player because we saw him at Wolves earlier in his career. He didn't really work out too well there, but he does have Premier League experience. I mean, it's the best league in the world. Experience there is always valuable, regardless of how you do it. I mean, we've seen players like Josh Sargent, who seem to be a lock for our squad when healthy as a third striker, with having that similar kind of experience where he didn't really do too much in the Prem. So I do think Campagna is an interesting player. I think I rate him higher than players like Haji Wright, despite he's playing in Inter Miami now. I mean, maybe it's a little bit of Messi hype, but I do think he's looked very, very good this season, and he's still a young player, the Ecuadorian. So I think a move back to Europe is definitely in his future. Maybe it's not to the Prem, maybe it's somewhere like La Liga, I think could suit him more. But he is a pretty quality striker, and I think he's better than some of the other options that we've relied on in the past, looking at you, Jesus Ferreira. So it's not the biggest loss. Obviously, it's not as big as Jonathan David at the striker position, but it is a player who could be important for depth pieces, especially when we keep getting these injuries to players like Gerald Dike and Josh Sargent.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's not made out of glass. That already puts him with this level. I think he would be included in a few call-ups in the past. But yes, you mentioned the forward position, and you see on my name right there, there is a very notable absence on this list because he's not a current player anymore. But more of that later, guys. We are going to bring a video. If you guys enjoy it, comment down below. We can bring the top 5 biggest losses in dual net battles that we've had, or lack of battles. We just used that word, but dual nets that ultimately didn't choose us. But yes, thank you, Braden, for this video. Thank you guys for watching. It was really fun to make. Hopefully we don't have to make another video like this in 10 years time when we end up winning every single dual net battle there is out there. But I think players, like you said, will be popping up around the globe that hold the capability of having a US passport, and we should be on the lookout, because ultimately, if you want to break into that top tier, I don't think that Landon Donovan's sentence and statement back in the day doesn't really reflect it. I don't think it does us any justice. I think we will need some dual nationals, and nothing wrong with that. America is built upon immigrants, so I mean we can definitely use them soccer-wise as well. So thank you very much, Braden. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, share. We will be bringing videos more consistently now. As I mentioned in the beginning, we'll be uploading consistently 2 to 3 videos a week. And that includes, of course, the stock watch, which we always bring to you guys. But we'll be more active from now on. Thank you very much. Make sure you like again, subscribe, tell your friends, and comment down below if you liked the video or if you didn't. We'll welcome any criticism or roast as well. We'll see you next time.